Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. My name is Jane McIntosh. I'm the Chief Philanthropy and External Affairs Officer at the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation, and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's webinar introducing our new CEO, Isobel Coleman. Before we begin, I just would like to thank all of you who are here and acknowledge some of the groups. We have a number of board members, funded investigators, funded companies, pharma partners, organizational partners, and some VCs as well. And that this wonderful group really is representative of our amazing community, and it's wonderful to have you all here. Isobel's been with us for about 8 weeks now. She has been traveling a lot, meeting with tons of people, and I know she very much looks forward to meeting all of you as well. So today we're going to hear a bit about her background, her vision for the ADDF, and our next chapter. And I'm going to just start at the beginning. Isobel's had an amazing career in government, the nonprofit sector, philanthropy, and the private sector. So, Isobel, tell us about you and your background.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane, so much. And thank you to all of you for joining here today. It's really wonderful to join this amazing community. And I feel really honored to be the CEO of the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation at this particular very consequential moment in the field. So, Jane, as you noted, I have done a lot of different things in my career, and it has certainly been nonlinear. But I would say that a through line from the very beginning, really through until now, has been a focus on problem solving. I started my career at McKinsey. I really had analysis and building a storyline to tell a narrative about what's actually going on in a company or an organization, drummed into me. Learned how to get up to speed very quickly on topics, which serves me very well in this role. I'm not a scientist, but I am learning it very quickly. And also how to, forge a consensus, bring people along, make hard decisions when necessary, but really focus on the elements of problem solving. And I also had a chapter in my life where I was the CEO of a startup, and I had exposure to the venture capital world. It was a VC-backed startup in the healthcare space, actually. And then I have served in foreign policy for much of the last 25 years, but bringing my McKinsey skill set to bear on a range of just very challenging problems in the world, everything from figuring out how to get more girls in school in places where there are enormous barriers to girls' education, to serving in a national security capacity, working on humanitarian issues, war zones, global pandemics. I mean, all sorts of things. But all of it is, I think, come back to looking at problems, asking the right questions, doing the right analyses, presenting data. And in the last 25 years, I've been very mission driven, and it's a very exciting time to be here at ADDF working on this important mission of curing Alzheimer's.
So, can you talk a little bit more about what drew you to the ADDF? One of the things that I think for many in our community that is very attractive about our organization is the model. And of course, we have big ambitions, but would love to hear a bit more about that from you.
Sure. Well, the model certainly was something that attracted me, the fact that it's a venture philanthropy model. So it's not just giving grants. ADDF does give grants, but also makes investments in companies. And I really was attracted to the rigor that the commercial process imposes on deploying philanthropic dollars, because we're nonprofit, so it's not like we're trying to make money off of any of this. But when we are making decisions about how to deploy capital to enhance and further the mission, looking at companies that have the best chance, not just because their science is good, but really, what is their potential for commercialization? For me, that means ultimately it's going to get over the finish line, into doctors' offices, into the hands of patients, and actually lead to treatments. And that, to me, I think is very exciting and something I found very attractive about ADDF. But stepping back, even just from ADDF itself, the space is very exciting right now. It's a very exciting moment to be working broadly in the neurodegenerative space and specifically on Alzheimer's. I mean, you've seen other diseases make huge progress in recent decades, and that has not been the case so much with Alzheimer's. Um, in recent years, you've seen a lot of momentum. And I think that momentum, in no small part from some of the very key investments, early bets, early risk-taking that ADDF did to push forward both diagnostic and early therapeutics, novel therapeutics. And so now you have diagnostic tools that are blood-based biomarkers, you have digital tools that ADDF is working on, and others in the space. And you also have two FDA-approved, therapies. So we see momentum, and I think now the whole field is at an inflection point. For me, part of the excitement is thinking about how AI can be a huge disruptor in healthcare broadly, but this space in particular. And when you think about AI, AI has a lot of risk. It's not welcomed by everyone, but in the healthcare space, I think it has tremendous potential to really drive positive progress. And I'm not the only one who thinks this, of course. When you look at some of the recent announcements of people who are pouring money into this space, this neurodegenerative space, they clearly are thinking the same way. Just this week, we had an announcement that the Allen Institute, which was founded by Paul Allen, one of the co-founders of Microsoft, that they're committing $400 million to this space, and $100 million of that comes directly from a personal donation by Jeff Bezos, and $200 million from the Allen estate itself, and another $100 million from Amazon. So, you see some smart money going into this field. And I really encourage folks to look at Bill Gates's, his most recent Gates note, which came out, I think it was yesterday, that talks about this as a golden age for research and progress in Alzheimer's. ADDF is partnered with Gates Ventures. He calls out some of the work that we're doing together in our diagnostic accelerator. And I think all of these are reasons to be really excited about the potential for progress. And all of it together is how I ended up here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Bill Gates because as I think everybody knows, he was drawn to this cause for a number of reasons, not the least of which is his father had Alzheimer's disease. And so many in our community are personally affected and experience this firsthand. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your own experience with Alzheimer's and or related dementias.
Well, I didn't mention that when I was talking about what drew me to this, but I think, as you say, for so many people who work in this space, pretty much everybody has been touched in one way or another. For me, my mother died very young from Parkinson's, and it was incredibly hard to watch. And then just last year, my dad, at the age of 93, passed away with dementia at the end. And to see the impact on him, but also on family members, broadly, caregivers are so affected. It's really a process of losing loved ones twice. And it really is so personal for so many people. So, I too share that, but I know when I speak with people all the time, particularly many of our financial sponsors and donors, it really is motivated out of personal conviction to make progress on bending the curve on this terrible disease. And I think now is an incredible moment to do that.
Yeah, I think too, I mean, just the power of that community and that shared experience. I mean, there's nothing like talking to someone who's been on this journey. And when I think about the legacy of the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation and just our own origin story, Leonard and Ronald Lauder founded the ADDF in honor of Estee Lauder. And in some ways, until pretty recently, we hadn't really discussed that origin story. And it's amazing how often when we talk about it now, people are just incredibly moved by that call to action, right? And so they set up this venture philanthropy, and we are now 30 years in almost. How do you think about that legacy and where we are now going in this next chapter?
Well, I think it's a remarkable legacy. I mean, the Lauder family so generously funded work in this space at a time when a lot of people had thrown up their hands and, pharma and others had retreated from the space in many ways because the the going was rough, it was slow going, and a lot of big trials failed, and people, I think, were pretty, in some ways, demoralized about the lack of progress. And yet you had the Lauder family and financial commitment behind it. And I think as I was saying earlier, how things have changed right now. You see a ton of money coming into this space in really exciting ways. I think to take advantage of the shift and the speed of change that's occurring in no small part because of AI, um, but also because to build on the progress that has been made to date. So, in many ways, the Lauders were visionaries to put money into this space and to continue to fund it through thick and thin. And right now, it's wonderful to see more pharmaceutical companies and biotech companies looking again at this space. And I mentioned, just a couple of organizations that are really digging deeper into the space now. The Allen Institute being one, Open AI Foundation being another. They've made a big commitment. So I think you're going to see much more momentum even than what we've had so far.
So tell me, I know you've been, in the role for about 8 weeks now, and I'm curious about what are the conversations, or what have you learned that has surprised you the most so far as you've gotten acquainted with ADDF and this field?
Well, look, I'm an optimistic person, and so I brought optimism to this role, and I came here, as I've been saying, because I think it's a very exciting time. But there was also a part of me that thought, are you talking yourself into something? Like, how optimistic should I be at this particular moment? And for me to see how rich and varied the field is today, there are
Mhm.
over 150 different novel therapeutics in clinical trials today. I
Right.
mean, that's an incredible number. And the money and the energy that's going into the space and building on the positive feedback loop. We have these diagnostic tools now that can help us really measure and refine the impact of the drugs. And then you get this positive feedback loop as the biomarkers become more precise, new therapies are developed. And I think we're going to see a combination therapies that can be really tailored to individuals appearing in the real world in the coming years that, if not a cure in and of themselves, will certainly change the trajectory of the disease for many people. And also prevention. There's so much interesting work happening on prevention. And ADDF is working across all of these different pillars: prevention, diagnostics, and therapeutics. And I mean, one of the things that I would say that I've learned is, there's more there than I even thought.
So we're starting to get some questions through from people that have joined the call, and I just want to encourage if you do have questions, please feel free to submit them through the button at the bottom of this Zoom. Um, so let me bear with me one second. Okay, so what do you think makes the ADDF's mission feel especially urgent in this moment?
Oh, well, I mean, we were talking about the personal cost to
Yeah.
people, to families. I mean, that is in and of itself a reason for urgency. There are few diseases that have been as tolerated, frankly, as Alzheimer's has been. We have tolerated this scourge in a way that I think we're no longer willing to tolerate, especially as the population ages. I mean, today there are 8 million people in the United States with Alzheimer's. That number is set to double in the coming years. We have not only the personal cost, but we also have a financial cost. It costs our country about $400 billion a year, Alzheimer's, and that number is set to reach a trillion in the coming decade. And it's a global issue. This isn't just a United States issue. This is very much of a global issue. And if you look around the world, there are 55 million people with Alzheimer's.
Right.
And that number is set to triple because countries are aging at a fast rate overseas, even faster than here. And so the urgency is personal, it's human, it's also financial.
So still early days for you here, but one of the questions we received was, do you have thoughts on which areas of Alzheimer's research that AI will disrupt profoundly over the next decade?
Well, I know that also that AI will disrupt research broadly.
Mm.
Right now, it takes years and billions of dollars to get through a phase 3 clinical trial. And I am confident that AI is going to disrupt that process. It's a hugely time-consuming and expensive process. If we can even just shorten the amount of time it takes to get a drug to market, it will both have real-world positive impacts and also reduce the cost. So, when you look at part of what's been so difficult with Alzheimer's research has been finding people, recruiting them for clinical trials. With some of the work that's going on now in terms of the digital diagnostic tools and the blood-based biomarkers, it's much easier to identify people at different stages and to be able to recruit them into clinical trials and to make those clinical trials more effective. So I think the process of research will be disrupted by AI in a good way. Um, there's a huge amount of money right now and interest going into looking at repurposing drugs and
Yeah.
using computational methods to do that, and also developing new molecules. So I think on the therapeutic side, you're going to see a lot coming out from AI in coming years. Beyond that, we've exhausted my knowledge on this, but believe me, I'm going to keep learning as
Well,
the field evolves and changes.
absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I think is very exciting just for us as staff, and I think we've heard too from members of the community, is you're clearly passionate and engaged and energized about this such an important mission. And I think it would be good for us to end on a note of optimism, and would love to hear sort of what you're most optimistic about, and perhaps pair that with what do you want people to leave this conversation thinking about our next chapter?
Well, I already disclosed that I'm an optimistic person, so I
Yeah.
do bring that mindset to the role. But I think I'm just most optimistic about the fact that today you have government, you have the private sector, you have the nonprofit sector, the foundation world, simply not accepting where we are with Alzheimer's. It's just not acceptable. And it's going to change. There's so much energy and research money going into this, even as we've seen cutbacks in research, federal research budgets. At the same time, the federal government has made a big commitment to Alzheimer's. I think it's for some of the reasons we were talking about before, the toll is just too great. And you also see massive wealth creation right now with IPOs of Anthropic and OpenAI happening. And there's a realization that from some of the people who are benefiting from that putting money into this type of research can have outsized human impacts in a really positive way. So I'm confident that breakthroughs are going to happen in the coming years,
Yeah.
and that it will be driven by this partnership across industry, philanthropy, government, and technology, all of it coming together to really drive change.
Yes, I think, and the ADDF is so perfectly positioned to seize on all of that. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And thank you, Isabel. I know that all of us at the ADDF are thrilled that you are here, and we very much look forward to having you meet all of our community in the weeks and months ahead. So thank you all for being with us.
Thank you. I would say it's a great team I've got too. So I'm thrilled to be working with all of you. Thank you.